Martin Daubney.
Well, I find it simply inconceivable that I'm stood here today. Few from communities like mine even made it to university, let alone to have the opportunity, the amazing opportunity to stand as an MEP. So you're probably thinking, who the hell is Martin Daubney? Good question. Well, I'm the proud son of a coal miner. My dad went down the pit when he was 17 years of age, and he stayed there for 47 years, digging for Britain, rebuilding our country, our broken country after the war. My mum was a housewife who did lace work, that other great Nottingham tradition, at home, putting myself and my sister through school, living hand to mouth, and she trained in the evenings to become a teacher. That was her dream. She fulfilled her dream. She went on to work with some of Nottinghamshire's most severely disadvantaged and challenging young boys, boys whose destiny was Borstal, prison, or worse, the most broken homes in the entire county. She then moved on to work with severely mentally disabled kids. A lifetime of dedication to the most neediest people in the county. And Dad gave me this work ethic, the work ethic that built this country, that unstoppable passion to work and to deliver. My mum told me education can lift us all. Anybody can fulfill their potential if they just have the opportunity. And indeed, I became the first boy in my family to ever make it to university. It was just amazing. In Manchester, here, yeah. And I spent many, many hours burning the midnight oil in the Peveril of the Peak, the Lasagari, the Hacienda. What a great town. I then trained to be a journalist, and this wasn't something that people like me did. I had no contacts. I didn't have any silver spoon in my mouth. I had no mummies and daddies contacts book. I just had that work ethic and that belief, and I made it to the top of the magazine game. I became a multi-award-winning magazine editor, once beating some bloke called Boris Johnson. You might have heard of him. I edited Loaded magazine, the Lads Mag, for 8 years. I can even remember some of it. It was a politically incorrect magazine from a very different era to today's joyless Twitter sphere, where saying the slightly most offensive thing seems to end careers, and indeed has already during this bruising campaign. So I then left my magazine when I became a father, because my dad was always working or asleep. And when I became a dad, I thought, I want to see my boy. So I quit. I became a stay-at-home dad, the hardest job I ever had. Forget managing 25 people and multi-million-pound budgets. Looking after a toddler was absolutely nightmarish, except it gave me the ability to look back on what I'd done, because what did Loaded do? Did it do something? We were accused of changing the way young men felt. And David Cameron, remember him? Yeah, the guy who started all this, thanks mate. He was saying at the time, the Daily Mail were echoing, that pornography was changing the way that young men were behaving. It was poisoning them. And I thought, can that be true? So I stepped back in to represent the voiceless working class men that were being attacked by the mainstream press and politicians, and I gave them a voice. I made a TV show for Channel 4 called Porn on the Brain, where we looked at the addictive potential of porn. After that came out, it's been shown in 7 countries now. The Home Office invited me in and said, Martin, talk to kids in schools about this, because they might listen to you. You've got a dodgy CV. You don't judge them. You're one of them. You walk the walk. I've now spoken to over 35,000 teenagers across the UK about pornography and its role in sexual consent, keeping them safe, and more to the point, teaching young men how to respect women. And they won't listen to a politician. They won't listen to a vicar. They won't listen to a copper, but they'll listen to the former editor of Loaded. It finally came useful for something. So, for the last 7 years, as Richard said, I've been an outspoken pundit on Sky News, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, anywhere that will have me, basically. And I'm a vocal and committed Brexiteer, one of the few, because we hear about the mainstream media being full of Remainers, and make of that what you will. I correctly predicted Brexit way before it happened. And how did I do that? By getting out of London. By getting away from the bubble, by not listening to politicians, clueless, but actually going to car boot sales, pubs, chip shops, talking to people in the queue at Asda. How's it going? You knew, at that point you knew, if you listen to people, to real people, it was a done deal. Forget buses, forget slogans. It was already in my heart. I knew it was going to end. That morning, Brexit morning, I was representing Sky News on the green underneath the House of the Parliament. I couldn't even believe I was there. I didn't feel worthy. I've told you about where I came from. And I said, Brexit is going to happen today. The politicians are clueless. It's coming. And they went, oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Even then, there was this state of denial, and it happened. I've got 2 kids. Independence Day was the 3rd happiest day of my life. I remember like floating down the road, like, wow, this thing has happened. We've won. Or did we? Did we win? We felt like we'd finally been given a voice, but it was choked. The boot of the establishment was around our throat. All of a sudden, we were being denied again. This compounded my feeling that I was politically homeless. I thought I was born Labour and die Labour. But when Ed Miliband abandoned the working classes, I abandoned Labour. My entire family went UKIP. I was saying in London, something's happening. There's a huge insurgence. Labour abandoned the working classes. Something needs to happen. I then voted the Lib Dems. Oh, no, sorry. It's a moment of madness. I dabbled with the Women's Equality Party. I thought, why not? Just something different. But then, and by the way, I never voted UKIP. I've never voted for Nigel. No, I'm not one of the Farage disciples. I'm here because Brexit became my politics, the issue that transcended everything else. I didn't care anymore about party politics. It was Brexit politics and who is going to deliver on that. And the answer was none of them. None of these useless MPs who don't know a real day's work. They don't understand hand to mouth. They don't understand the panic of poverty. That's something they read about. It's a concept, but it's not a reality for them. So why don't we replace these people? Why don't we kick them out? Why don't we start again? Let's start again with a new wave of people who understand the real world. Sorry, getting a bit excited there. I've got to say, enacting Brexit now seems to me a straight toss of the coin. Do you believe in democracy or do you want to deny it? The Brexit Party, I believe, is the only way of making sure that democracy is enacted. And today has been the hardest decision of my life to stand here. I'm a public figure of sorts, small one. I'm on social media. I'm not wealthy. I work hand to mouth. I've got 2 kids. I've got a mortgage. This is a dangerous place to be. Careers get wrecked. I'm expecting it to happen. Bring it on. Just let's have it. Because you know what? I said to my dad, what do you think? Should I stand for this? And my dad is the second most committed Brexiteer I've ever met after Nigel. He said, don't do it, son. He said, you'll get death threats. It's going to destroy your livelihood. And I was like, oh, God. And then I spoke to my mum. And she said, son, you've got to do this. If you don't do it, who else is going to speak up for ordinary, common folk like us? And I thought, Mum always did know best. So today, with great nerves, I've decided to stand for the Brexit Party. I just felt it was the only thing that I had left to do. And I'll tell you this much for free. I vow to do my utmost and my very best to get this job done, to deliver Brexit and finally give 17.4 million people a voice that cannot be silenced any longer. Thank you.